Hi.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, once again, it is indeed time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning, we have talk champion Jonathan Small, in the house. Once again, morning, Jonathan. How you doing?
Doing fine, Stan. It's a pleasure to be back here again. Look forward to it, as I mentioned, every single week.
Mm-hmm.
A little cold day this morning, cold morning. Hopefully, it's going to warm up later. And I guess the weekend was pretty normal. Just a typical weekend, man. Running errands, taking care of business.
Yeah, I don't think I really went out to. I don't think I really. What did I do this weekend? I don't really remember too much about this weekend. I remember yesterday because it's a football game, but Saturday, I don't think I left the house Saturday. I think we were like in for most of the weekend, just chilling and watching TV. It was cold.
It was cold, definitely was cold Saturday. But I was saying yesterday was going to be, I mean, it was cold, but during the day, I was actually outside standing. I like to be outside, and the sun was out. I mean, it was cold, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Then it got colder at nighttime, the evening time. That's when it really dropped, the temperatures. Yeah. So I'm saying yesterday was just a good day to sit back and watch football in particular, but then I end up having to run some errands, take care of some business, and I missed most of the 1 o'clock games. I was listening on the radio to
the 1 o'clock game was the Patriots
and the Jets.
That was a good game.
I was listening to that game on the radio, actually. I caught a little bit of it before I left the house. And it was a good game.
It was a good game. It was like 3-3 till almost the bitter end.
Yeah, the guy gets a kickoff for a punt return a touchdown.
Yeah, rookie. Yeah, punt return. First, apparently, because I'm not like a big football fan. Like I know all kinds of stuff, but that was the first return for the NFL this year. Punt return,
right?
Yeah, the guy was saying 1,000 returns thus far. He was the first one. Not a bad thing to have on your record as a rookie.
No, it's not. It makes you look good because that's part of special teams. You know, you're trying to build your reputation and your talent level when you return a winning touchdown. I mean, that's a heartbreaking loss for the Jets, but maybe the Jets never really had the game. It was just a tie game. Like I say, like you said, 3-3, and just lose it towards the end. So that's kind of a setback for them. And the Giants, they lost. You know, they got blown out against the Detroit Lions. So they're coming back down a little bit. They lost 2 in a row now.
What was the blowout score?
You know what? I can't remember. I know it was I think the Detroit had 30 something, and the Giants was in the teens. It might not have been as blowout as I'm predicting because I don't have the score in front of me. I can't remember. I remember my Cowboys blowing out the Minnesota Vikings 40-3.
That was just atrocious. We watched that game. Until they cut it off.
Yeah, it was not an interesting game.
They went to the Pittsburgh Steelers
game. That was a more closer competitive game.
Yeah, I mean it was like. I don't know, I think like 42-3 at the time they cut or something like that. I don't know. It was bad. See,
I don't know how to picture the Cowboys. I don't know if the Cowboys as good as they were yesterday, or they was disappointing and bad as they was last week, losing to Green Bay. So I don't know how to predict. Minnesota was 8-1.
That's right. I don't think anyone thought it was going to be a blowout like that.
No, I mean, I thought it was going to be a tight game. The Cowboys might have to come back. But like I say, they came to play. I mean, established the defense, caused some turnovers. Dak Prescott was very impressive. He only had 3 incomplete passes. This running back, Tony Pollard, scored 2 touchdowns. I know you don't know every history about football, but used to be a running back called Marshall Faulk, who used to play for the Rams, was kind of versatile. He could be like a wide receiver and a running back. And that's kind of what this running back, Tony Pollard, reminds me of. But the problem with the Cowboys is the Eagles won yesterday, and they're still in first place. So, the Eagles could have lost.
They could have. So the Eagles are what, 10-1?
I believe 9-1.
9-1?
Because they was 8-0. They was 8-0 up last week, and they lost.
Oh, okay.
So they're 9-1.
9-1. All right, well, that's good. That's good.
Well, keep an eye on Thanksgiving. I mean, the Cowboys and the Giants playing. I mean, I had to rearrange my work schedules to have this day off. So I want to relax and watch this game in peace and not be checking my phone every minute. So keep an eye on this game. You know about Thanksgiving traditional. Detroit Lions play and the Cowboys always play. But I guess it's not going to come on to 9 o'clock. So we kind of have
9 o'clock. Yeah, 9 o'clock. Our guests will be joining us at the top of the hour, as they like to say. So that and of course, this is a particularly for us here in Hartford. This is going to be a big guest. Big guest. You've been trying to get this guest for a long time. I mean, he's a big guest. Anyway, all of Jonathan's guests are good guests, but this is a big guy.
Yeah, it took me a couple years to actually get this guest confirmed. Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of work on and off. I thought it would never happen until it really comes on. I don't want to jinx myself. Right. But I just know I got this commitment. But it is a big topic. I sent you a link yesterday along with the family member up in Boston about the 24-year anniversary of the scheduled New England Patriots coming to Hartford. Yes. Yeah. It just never happened. I mean,
was it you that sent the letter?
I sent the letter.
A copy of the letter, right? The state representative from Wethersfield. And signed with Bob Kraft, and his commitment to the people of Hartford. I thought that was kind of funny, looking back on it, because of course Wethersfield is not Hartford.
Right.
And that might have been a sign right there. The words in the letter.
Well, I think you can't fault Governor Rowland. I mean, he's kind of negotiated or was somewhat spearheaded the whole movement, and it was just one loophole clause that I guess if it wasn't built at a certain time, the deal could be dissolved. And the steam plant,
Hartford Steam Boiler.
Steam Boiler plant was.
No. Hartford Steam Boiler is the insurance company. But I know, yes, the steam plant is still there.
Yeah, but they couldn't get the stadium built on time. It had something to do with that steam.
They didn't want to move it. It's still there.
Now, see, Stan, do you think it would have mattered wherever the stadium would have been in Rensselaerfield? I mean, obviously they wanted it in downtown Hartford. I mean, that was the whole goal. But do you think it really wouldn't matter if it would have been in Rensselaerfield? I mean, you would love probably to see it in downtown Hartford, as many people would love to kind of revitalize.
I don't know. There's a lot that goes into these kinds of deals. People have vision. They have plans. They work their little plans out. I shouldn't say little because it sounds like I'm demeaning the plan. Mm-hmm. They work the plans out. On paper, there's, all kinds of in-depth analysis, market studies, actuary, come in and they work out all the little numbers and given the number of cars to travel on the highway and, if in time the highway widens, off ramps, on ramps, how long it takes for people to get into the stadium, proximity to different hotels, shopping? Can they walk? All these things go into the model to make it work. And so if those things fall apart, the model doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And it may take you several years to realize a return on your investment. And if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. To the people that make these kinds of deals, it's sort of like you go to the automotive dealer, and you want a blue car with a white cream leather interior, and the car comes and that's not what you ordered.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that's a deal breaker. Well, no. Give me my money back. I'll go somewhere else to get the car because this is not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm paying for the car. I don't want it. And so for these people, it's just a business decision.
Well, if you're the owner of the football team, the New England Patriots, and you want the stadium ready for the 2000,
you want it ready.
Yeah.
Right. You own a football team. That's like a toy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice toy, but for the people who own these things, this is not like this is not how they it adds to the money that they make, but if they sell the team and move on or get rid of the team, it's not like a hardship to them in any stretch of imagination.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, I don't want to give away too much. I'd rather wait until the guest comes on.
The guest comes.
Because it's the Excel Center. Some things I would like to talk about that, but I will just wait till the guest comes on. Any other topics that you got interest in? I mean, we got some time. There's
stuff happening in Hartford. Hartford mayor race should be coming up.
Oh, 2023.
2023 big announcement coming up Wednesday the 30th.
Regarding who?
Regarding one of the candidates is going to be making a big announcement.
Is that going to be you?
No. No.
Well, you always say that, then after a while you jump into the race.
No, I will not be running for mayor in 2023.
Oh, okay.
That's not going to be me. No, I'm not. No. Mm-mm.
And is Mayor Bronin going to announce at some point? Or is
he the best that people can glean from comments that he made were comments that he made on the radio on one of the talk morning shows where he said that he didn't say yes or no, but he said more likely, leaning toward yes, but nothing definitive. But I mean, he's moving around and he's everywhere. He seems to me to be in campaign mode. If I had to guess.
Well, I don't know who this person that's gonna be not making.
Well, there was an article in the paper several weeks ago about Judge Coleman, former state senator and Superior Court Judge Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, he was a Connecticut state senator, and so he has some statewide political experience.
Oh, a lot of statewide experience.
I thought you had to be a resident of Hartford to become mayor.
As a matter of fact, he's moved into Hartford.
He has?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he's serious.
He's very serious.
So I would love to hear his platform and his agenda. Maybe that's something you might want to work on. I guess he'll make the announcement. You want to make sure he makes the announcement first.
Yeah. But it should be very interesting because it'll be a great race for the citizens of Hartford.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not a political expert. I mean, I try my best to be a political analyst, but I'm not a political expert. But I would say it's going to be very difficult to beat or defeat Mayor Luke Bronin. I mean, if you want to say one of the biggest issues right now that you could say Mayor Bronin is not handling the city towards public safety with the police chief, but he does a very good job at finding ways to make it look like he's on top of the issues. He had some type of they was doing some type of article about Hartford is on pace for one of the highest homicide rates in decades.
I think it's there.
It's there. But he said, something about they're not their personal disputes.
They were personal disputes when Pedro Segarra was mayor too.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
Well, the only thing is, if it looks like he's covering and doing a good job in so many other areas, he can downplay and say, well, we're working on public safety. It's a national trend. But when you look at the statistics of New Haven, I believe the story reported that New Haven has 10 homicides. Hartford has 36. And the police chief in New Haven was reporting in the story that the community dialogue, the community involvement that they have is playing a tremendous role.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's the case here in Hartford. I mean, you follow these things more closely than I do with the police involvement and the community involvement in the African American Alliance. How y'all feel about public safety?
Well, I think we're pretty public on how we feel about public safety. So, you know. But there's 161 people been shot in Hartford.
Yes.
Shot,
very high number.
Fortunately, they didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
And then the docket for cases that are just, you know, the court docket for cases that need to come before the court is quite high, staggeringly high.
Mm-hmm.
So these are people already been, you know. So there's a lot going on, but it has always been my contention that the mayor has very little to do with homicides.
Well, I mean, he may have nothing to do with homicides, but obviously he selects the police chief, and if there's some issues with how the police chief and the Hartford Police Department is running the city, still doesn't make it look like you. I mean, you can't blame you for who's getting killed. It's how you go about dealing with it, addressing it. If the Hartford Police Department could play a stronger role, if the police chief can play a stronger role, if you feel you could select another police chief that could do something differently. The thing I'm trying to figure out is Hartford and New Haven is very similar with their social economic issues. And how could one city has 10 homicides, the other city has 36? You just can't pinpoint and say it's bad luck. I mean, it has to be some strategy like
there is absolutely causality. There's something that's causing this. Also, you have a lot of retribution type stuff. But to me, that speaks to the culture of the police and the police department. So it's a very complex issue that is, things are interwoven. But it is quite clear that the people who are being harmed, if you retaliate, then you're taking the law into your own hands, which means you're not concerned about the police.
Right.
You don't trust them, or you don't believe they'll handle it, or you're letting your personal, feelings get in the way. It becomes very emotional, and this is conflict transformation, conflict resolution. Just is not there. How to mitigate conflict. And so it's a very complicated, very involved issue, which requires, a lot of nuance to the solution. It would seem, as you have suggested, that New Haven may have an upper hand in that area.
Well, see, I always heard people tell me, and I never really paid much attention or interact in New Haven, is that they feel how they address issues and certain things with community organizations is a little bit different than how we do it here in Hartford. It's the same issues, just the same problems, but just how they go about addressing it seems to be a little bit different. And this might be the case here with the community involvement from law enforcement to the community people itself, the organizations in New Haven. Maybe they feel like they're operating on one page. They got a trust factor. And again, I got to listen to the story again, listen to the report. But the New Haven police chief really felt strongly that, the community dialogue is real important. I mean, if you feel as a citizen you have this trust factor with law enforcement and there's a dialogue, you can report information to them. You feel like if you address things to the police department, they're going to respond to you. They're working with you. And you have a scenario maybe here in Hartford, you feel like you're not going to get anywhere going to the Hartford Police Department. They're not really out for your best interests. It could break down the dialogue, Stan. It could be like, why am I wasting my time trying to address issues? Now, I think what the criminals are doing, still, I don't put that on the police department, because I think the scenario is you may find if you're involved in some type of criminal activity and you're going to go out there and try to kill someone, that's saying something about yourself. I mean, you can say you don't trust the police factor, but again, you're taking the law in your own hand. Mm-hmm. And for you to go out there and be willing to kill someone, that is certainly not the way to go about addressing a crime factor. Either you are involved in some type of criminal activity, or you just want to take care of the law in your own hand. And then maybe the third factor is you might feel, I don't need to go to the police department. It's not going to get anywhere. I'm not going to get anywhere with going to the Hartford Police Department. But it's like if somebody tries to break into your home and you see the person, you know who the person is, it would be wrong now for you, Stan, to say, well, this criminal, I know he hangs out in downtown Hartford, so he tried to break into my home. I'm going to go out there and get a gun and try to kill this person. You, as a citizen or as a homeowner, should say, I know where this person is at. He broke into my home. Let me go to the law enforcement and get this person arrested. That's what I guess a law-abiding citizen should do. Now, if you're going to go out there and saying, well, the police department, they're not going to arrest this person, nothing is going to come out of it. So he broke into my home, he stole certain items from me. I'm going to go out there and try to shoot and kill this person. That's not the way to go about addressing crime, Stan. I mean, that don't wash with me.
Well, it may not be the way to go about addressing crime, but it may be the way that an individual responds to having been violated or wrong. So, the rules are there for everybody, but they only affect those who abide by them. So if you're involved in criminal activity like drug sales and someone comes and steals your little bank or breaks into your house and takes something, do you go to the police? The dude stole $30,000 from me. I want it back. Can you go get him? Where'd you get the money? That's not the issue. So, there are reasons why people go and take care of things themselves. But it's like I said, it's complex. But New Haven has a different form of city government. They have aldermen in New Haven, whereas we have city councils. City councilors, they do the same thing. Their legislative body is structured different than ours. Hartford has 9 city councilors. New Haven has 30 aldermen, and each of them serve a different district. So the response of the elected official to the constituent is a little bit different, and they have much more influence over the executive branch than our structure here, where we have 9 city councilors, 6 of whom are Democrats. 1 is a party unto itself, the Hartford Party, and the other 2 are working family members. So the 6 that make up the majority are Democrats. There's a Democrat mayor, and so the Democratic the town committee is Democrats. So if you have party running everything, there's more of a tendency to fall in line with the party rules as opposed to the rules of, your constituents.
Mm-hmm.
And so how engaged is the community? In New Haven, the community is very engaged. Much more so than here. And when I say engaged, I mean it's engaged where there's a response from the elected officials. So there are elements within Hartford that are engaged, but they don't get the same kind of response.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't get the same kind of response because there's no real direct political threat to the elected official. Elected officials tend to have a response when there's a political threat to their calm and relaxed job, if you will. So, because New Haven aldermen, the citizens, and through the citizens, the aldermen, didn't want the police chief that was down there in New Haven, and they told her she couldn't be here. They voted her, boom. So they put a lot of pressure on the mayor, and the mayor didn't keep her. Here, there's been pressure put on the mayor to get rid of the police chief, but he still remains.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to say, the linkage between the mayor and the police chief. It sounds like some citizens have some issues with the police chief. I know Kevin Brookman is very consistent on, pointing blame at, Mayor Luke Bronin to go along with Police Chief James Toady.
Or Jason.
Jason Toady, yeah.
Toady.
Toady?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jason.
Jason Toady, yeah. I show you how much paying attention I paid to this person's name. But I mean, we know who we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I give you... Are we up on our break? I mean, I want to give you an example of what you just stated.
Why don't we take a break?
Okay.
And we'll talk about that on the other side as we prepare for our guests, our mystery guests, joining us at the top of the hour. Stick and stay, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. It's Morning Talk.
Are Puerto Rican, Mexican, Peruvian, Indian, Bosnian, Italian, Irish, Jamaican, African American, European, straight, gay, Nigerian, transgender, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, short, tall, skinny, rich, poor, happy, sad. Some of us hold a PhD and others a GED. And though we may be Democrats, Republicans, or members of the Working Families Party, we all have escaped the plantation of party politics and become independent thinkers because we as individuals are more than a party. You see, independent thinkers come from all walks of life. And the one thing we all have in common is that we love, live, laugh, and learn in the city of Hartford. We are the constituents, and the government of Hartford belongs to us. My name is J. Stan McCauley. I'm an independent thinker, and I approve this message because it's time to stop towing the party line and vote for a candidate you can trust. You too can escape the plantation of party politics if you have the courage to free your political mind.
Hi, so my name is Nelky Maldonado.
My name is Ramon L. Arroyo.
And we know that Hartford Parent University provides good services and resources to parents in our communities, which are greatly needed because a lot of times our parents, they don't know where to go, how to get information, and being part of this program is essential to them in being successful in their children's education.
And I think that parents should get involved in their kids' education because it's very important. Education is, I always believe, is a success in life. If you got a good education, you can be very successful.
So we encourage our parents to please come join the program, ask lots of questions, and I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed.
Hi,
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Welcome back. It's Morning Talk. I'm your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of Talk champion Jonathan Small in the house this morning. Having a little conversation here, talking about, I guess, police chiefs, public safety, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's real important, City. I mean, it's real important to have a good involvement with law enforcement if it's needed. You know, if you feel like you need to be involved with law enforcement, you have a particular issue, like many other related issues of public safety, quality of life. And when you can turn to someone and get at least the information and get the dialogue, that's real important. That doesn't mean it's going to always resolve everything, but if it's something that you feel you got an issue with and you can turn to someone in law enforcement or your city council or your representatives and you feel like you're going to get some type of information, some type of results. I mean, like I mentioned a year or so ago, there was a stray dog roaming around in the area where I live. And I got in contact with now Speaker Matt Ritter, who represents the district where I was living at. And they got the dog off of the street. You know, he followed up. He was able to get in contact with the dog owner. And the dog was no longer roaming around the streets. Now, this dog could have been a vicious dog. Nobody knows for sure. And I was able to see the dog roaming around. Looked like he had no owner. And, you know, I didn't know exactly who else to really contact with. Maybe there was some other sources I could have contacted with as well. But obviously having a relationship with Speaker Matt Ritter in his office, was able to contact and report about some type of stray dog roaming the streets. And got in contact. I guess someone from his office was able to get in contact with the dog owner, and the dog was removed from the streets. And he followed up and also let me know exactly what has taken place. Just one example when you're getting somewhere, how it makes you feel, and then it gets the results done on top of that. You know, somebody responds to your issues and your questions, and then it gets resolved. Now you contact some city council representative or some state representative, and you're not getting nowhere. You're not getting your phone calls or return. They're not responding back to you, and you do this all the time. It's going to start to make you feel like, am I wasting my time even trying to be involved and report issues and start a dialogue when they're not really responding back to you? So I don't know if that's the case, that what people are seeing here in Hartford with the law enforcement side of the Hartford Police Department and public safety, and maybe it's a lot different in New Haven.
I don't know. I can't speak to what goes on in New Haven because, of course, I don't live there. But you make a very, very good point. And I think that's it cuts across many different interactions, whether it's at a burger joint, at a grocery store, but most certainly when you're dealing with people who are elected to office, particularly when those people elected to office are there to represent you, and especially if you voted for them.
Right.
All right. But the police department is there to protect and serve.
Yeah.
They can either rule by force, or they can, or they rule by, they serve as guardians. They're either enforcers or guardians. So what do you have? It seems as though law enforcement in the suburban areas play the role of guardian and protector. And in urban areas, they play the role of enforcer, occupier. We're the strong force, and you need to do what we say. We're in charge. And it's just a matter of perspective. So ultimately, it depends upon how the officers engage with the constituents, and that becomes a cultural issue within the department, and the department's culture is set by its top official, the chief.
Right.
So climate and culture within the department that responsibility lies on the chief. And ultimately, the ultimate authority with the police, and thus saith Stan, not necessarily the truth, the ultimate authority in terms of the police are the constituents. Because the constituents, it's their government. And so they have elected representatives, the city council and the mayor. The mayor hires the chief. The mayor was elected by the people. So if the chief ain't doing right, then the mayor has to hold the chief accountable. And if the mayor isn't doing right, then the people hold the mayor accountable by voting the mayor out.
Right.
So you have the government you deserve because of how you vote. And a lot of the problems that we have with police are not as monumental, I think, as people make them out to be. I think the only reason it's monumental is because people aren't willing to actually deal with the issue at hand.
Yeah.
The issue at hand requires removal of people who aren't doing their job. But rather than to remove those individuals, they talk about, well, they need to treat us right. They need to know that if you're not being treated right by somebody you're paying, replace them. Why would you go back to a restaurant that every time you go there, you get sick?
Right.
Eating the food. Then you say, well, I'm going to call the health department. So they go in there and they do something. Then you go back, you get sick again. And there's all of these things that you're trying to make happen so that that one restaurant treats you the way you want to be treated. When there's restaurants next door, there's restaurants down the street, there's a restaurant around the corner, there's a restaurant across town. Our police department is responsible to, well, not just ours, but any police department. There are authorities to whom they have to answer. And people don't hold those responsible.
Right.
That they should be. In my opinion.
Well, if the registered voters and the citizens really feel like, it's not going to make a difference, see, this is where you get into this apathetic mentality. What sense is it going to be for me to really try to remove or advocate even? Because a lot of people may not even know exactly how to go about it. I mean, I believe the African American Alliance, you held some type of press conference a year or so ago with the advocation of removing the police chief of Hartford. But don't take it simplistically that everybody knows exactly the whole process you can sound off and saying, well, the police chief needs to be removed. It's another thing to really know how to go about the process and how to reach people and correlate with different people to say that this is a number one priority and we need some type of attention to get the police chief removed. That's a real big decision, you know.
It may be a big decision on the part of it's a big decision for the decision makers who ultimately have to call for the removal. But for the person who's being affected, all they have to do is get on the phone. I don't think it's that big of a decision. I think what you said earlier is true, that they may not know how to, but in the suburbs they do.
All right.
It's sort of like not knowing how to get off a ship that's sinking.
All right.
If you don't get off the ship, you're going to drown. So some things require you to find out how. If you got to get off that ship. If you don't, you're doomed. The people who know how to get off, they have an advantage. But that doesn't change what happens to you if you fail. Same thing if you're not being treated right with your government. Don't just sit back and be treated any old way. Get on the phone, call people, hold them accountable. Tell your neighbors. Go to meetings. You can't be disengaged from a process that requires your direct engagement.
Yeah.
Because if you're not engaged, then what happens is that the people who are managing your government do whatever they want.
Well, I'll tell you, everybody's situation is differently. I mean, you got to balance your time. I mean, if you are working and you got a household and you got other issues to deal with, you need to know how much time you have to devote towards being involved with certain issues, going to meetings, going to committee issues or committee meetings, citizen meetings, city council meetings. It's going to take some time. I mean, you know, it may sound like an hour or 2 hours out of your day is not a lot of time.
It's not. I would contend
that's not the issue.
it's not important for the people who don't take the time. People take time to do what they want.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Now you work for a living. You have to go to work, but the game is on.
Yeah.
It's important to you to watch the game.
That's true.
So you made sure you're not going to be interrupted with phone calls. You don't want to have to be checking the phone to see if they're calling you, if they need you to come in, this and the third. So you arrange to clear your schedule.
Right.
People have to arrange to clear their schedules if this is something that's going on and it's truly important. A lot of times people complain. They like to complain. They want to complain. They don't really want to go and do what's necessary for the change. They complain. If you complain about something that can't be fixed, won't be fixed, then people remove themselves from the source of the problem. They'll move. People vote with their feet. They move out of town. You got neighbors that are messing with you. You move if they won't stop. So we respond to the things that are important to us. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's not really that important to people.
Well, I mean, if you look at homicides and you look at crimes that's taking place, if it doesn't directly involve you, then more likely you're not going to really get involved with it. I mean, you may say it's an unfortunate incident, but I didn't know this person that got shot or got killed. He's not a member of my family. He's not a friend of mine's. I don't really see what you expect me to do. I'm just giving one example of how somebody could, you know, come across. You got to look at the reality, though. See, when you have a home ownership and you're looking at the big picture, you may say, well, I don't even have any children in the school system, but I was told by a realtor, still having a good school system increases your home value. So even though you may not have any children in the school system, having a good school system, if you're a homeowner, but you should be concerned anyway, though. You don't want to be in a city with a poor school system.
Well, that's true.
But what affects you, I think, is what I'm really trying to say, is what people prioritize and take the actionary approach. when something directly affects you.
There's nothing like being directly affected. When you feel the pain, you respond.
Right.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be back with our special guest.
Okay.
It's Morning Talk. Don't go anywhere. Jonathan Small, J. Stan McCauley.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Nyesha Garcia. I am from Brazil. I help HPU. I help families de Universidade de Hartford Community. Estou muito feliz em participar. É muito importante o engajamento deles padres e madres nas escolas de Hartford com seus ninhos, my children. I love helping family e HPU. Thank you. Gracias. Obrigado.
Hi,
My name's J. Stan McCauley.
I'm Nyesha McCauley, and
Well,
you're
you're
watching
watching
accesstv.org.
Oh, yeah. All right, my friends, welcome back. Morning Talk. I'm your host, J. Stan McCauley, along with the champions of talk. This morning's talk champion, of course, is none other than Jonathan Small in the house. And we're going to join our special guest here at the top of the hour. So, of course, we have Jonathan gets the greatest people from all over the country, around the world, to spend time with you all out there. So I hope you appreciate the work that he does, and always a really, really special guest. I call them master classes because all of the people that come are experts in what they do. So with that, let's let Mr. Small have the floor and do the introduction. Jonathan.
Well, good morning to people out there on Morning Talk Live with J. Stan McCauley Talk Show. This morning we have a very successful business owner or former business owner, a high-profile business owner of a professional sports team that he once owned. Also a very successful film producer. The guest this morning on Morning Talk Live with J. Stan McCauley Talk Show is the former former managing partner, former owner of a NHL professional hockey team. He's also an entertainment film producer, no other than Howard Baldwin. Good morning, Howard. How are you doing?
I'm
Doing really well. How are you?
Okay, I'm doing fine, and you, Howard? Howard, could you kind of let people know a little bit about your background before we get into our topics of discussion?
Well, that might take a long time because I'm old. But I think as it relates to what we're talking about today, it's professional sports, founding the Hartford Whalers from 1971, believe it or not, and staying there till 1988. And we got into the National Hockey League and did the merger. Hartford was a vibrant, active city. Team was sold in '88, and my wife Karen and I moved out here to LA. It's very active in the film business. We also owned the Pittsburgh Penguins for about 9 years. Still staying involved in sports, but we're primarily filming.
Okay. Well, Howard, the conversation this morning is going to be about sports, business, and entertainment. So your background in professional sports started off basically in hockey, I believe. So how did that all come about for you to really get in a position to become a founder and managing partner of a professional hockey team?
Well, it started, I was fortunate and got a job with the Philadelphia Flyers when they inaugurated the team or started the team in 1967. I started at the bottom as ticket manager. And 1 year before that, I worked for their minor league team, the Jersey Devils, a place called Camden, New Jersey, or really outside of Camden, Cherry Hill. It was a wonderful experience. It was like getting my degree, if you want to call it that, in sports, and the same thing for the Flyers. And that's how I got started. Was there 4 years. I left because I felt it was time to leave and strike out on my own and see if I could get into an ownership position. So I left, moved back to the Massachusetts area.
And then your involvement with starting as the managing partner and founder of the Hartford Whalers. I believe it started it before the Hartford Whalers. It was the New England Whalers. So how did you make that transition from somewhat of a semi-pro professional hockey team to a professional hockey team in the NHL?
Well, from the Jersey Devils was not semi-pro. It was pro.
Okay.
Played a 76-game season or whatever it was, and were they were good players. And some of them went on to play in the National Hockey League. That team was owned by the Flyers. They plunked me there to run the team with a band of one other person, and of course we had a coach. Thank goodness. And then they moved me up into the NHL team right after that year, which was the plan from the get-go.
Well, actually, I was referring more to the Whalers. I mean, I thought the Whalers. I know you said you owned the team or you started a team actually before the Whalers. Now it sounds like, but the Whalers.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all. As I said to you, the experience with the Flyers was as a ticket manager.
Okay.
And then when I left the Whalers, we heard about a new league being formed, and out of Orange County, you had the ABA, and the guys that were forming the WHA were the same guys that formed the ABA, and so we reached out to them, and we were able to get the franchise for Boston. We branded it New England, but it was Boston. That was in 1971. First season we played was 1972.
And I guess on record, you was considered one of the youngest, if not the youngest, owners of a professional hockey team. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, that's correct.
Was there any obstacles or difficulties trying to get a professional hockey team established when you got started it?
Well, remember in Boston you had the Bruins, and you had really great sports teams there. They were prospering, so it was a bit of a David and Goliath story. So yeah, there were a lot of obstacles. Starting a new league and starting a new team. Of course, there are a lot of obstacles.
Well, Howard, sometimes people may get this misbelief or belief that sports is just sports, but sports in professional terms is a business. So it's a business decision. You have to generate a profit. You have to be able to generate revenue. So was there enough revenue stream when you first got started with the Whalers to make this seem like this was something that you wanted to continue to pursue?
Well, no. Cash flow wise, all the teams lost money.
Mm-hmm.
Professional sports take football out of the equation. That's usually the case where, look, you hope you can cash flow money. And today, in this world today, many of them do, but many of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
Where their money is when the team is sold. It's a very good equity play. Cash flow wise, it's coming better and better. But back when I was doing it, you really had really 3 or 4 sources of revenues, with tickets being 85% of it. Today, tickets is probably 50% of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Howard, you felt it was real important at one stage when you had the New England Whalers. I believe they was playing in Boston, so you wanted the Whalers to basically have their own arena. Was that a difficult process to be able to get your own arena established when you got that, I guess, advocated or spearheaded back in, the mid-'70s in Hartford?
Well, no. If you check your history,
mm-hmm.
the arena was being built, and that's why we moved the team to Hartford. We had nothing to do with the building of that arena.
Okay.
We were in the right place at the right time, and you needed a prime tenant, and we were at.
Now, you felt it was something that it would be a good fit, because they say in business something needs to always usually be mutually beneficial. So you felt it would be beneficial for your part as the owner of the Whalers, and then you felt, or did you feel it would be beneficial, or did the city of Hartford felt with the whole need for downtown revitalization that having a professional hockey team would be a tremendous asset on both sides of the spectrum? So how did that whole balance come about, that you feel it's going to be something successful for you, and the city of Hartford downtown developers going to feel it's going to be something successful for them?
The city of Hartford built the arena for a reason, to get people to come to downtown Hartford.
Mm-hmm.
And in those days, and today too, quite frankly, an arena needs a prime tenant. And so it was really the city of Hartford, and of course the business community was behind them. But they, went about the construction of a 10,500 seat arena. They were negotiating with a guy named Charles Finley in the American Basketball Association to put a basketball team there. The negotiations fell through, and just right at the time where we realized we weren't going to make it in Boston. So we reached out to Hartford and made a deal quite quickly. It worked. It worked so well there in the 70s and 80s because you had the perfect storm, if you want to call it that, of state government, city government, and the business community working arm in arm, hand in hand,
mm-hmm.
to make sure that the arena got built, finished, beautiful, which it was, and they had a team there, and
mm-hmm.
the team succeeded, and the corporate community deserves a ton of credit, as does the city and state. I'm not sure that exists any longer there. Based on what I've seen, it doesn't. But it did then.
Well, did the roof collapse, I believe in 78 with the winter storm? Was that a major setback, or was that just something that you had to dust off, your boots and just make some adjustments? I believe the Whalers would be ending up playing their regular season games up in Springfield.
Yeah.
So how did that whole issue affect the Hartford Whalers when that happened?
Yeah. First and foremost, it was, thank God nobody was hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Then secondly, it was a blessing in disguise, because we were in the middle of merger discussions with the NHL, and our building wasn't big enough. And I'm not sure you could expand the Hartford. In fact, I am sure you could. We did plenty of architectural studies to see whether you could get the building in Hartford 10.5 to 12.5, which is the absolute minimum in the NHL. And you could barely. But when the roof collapsed, that answered all those questions, because we literally had to rebuild it pretty much, not quite from scratch, because that wouldn't be right. But we had to rebuild it. And in rebuilding it, we could get up to 14,500 seats.
Mm-hmm. Stan, do you have any questions or any comments you want to make to Howard Baldwin?
No, I'm just paying attention and listening. But you know what he mentioned about the perfect storm of city, state, and corporate working together.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be understated or oversold or whatever the case may be, because until that returns, I don't see Hartford reaching the potential that it absolutely has, because you just got to have that kind of cooperation. And the Whalers is an example of what happens when you work together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You couldn't have said it better, Sam. We came back to try to help bring a team back there.
Mm-hmm.
In 2010, we had really virtually no cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the 70s, it was it really was pure joy to see the way government and private enterprise could work together to make sure something succeeded. And I can assure you, having been there, when you walk the streets of Hartford in the 70s and 80s, it was packed. And when I say that, it's no exaggeration. And for whatever reason, in the 90s, they decided to undo it all. They felt they needed, as far as the Civic Center was concerned, they felt, well, let's get rid of the shops and the mall-like atmosphere. Larry Gottestinger, I think his name is, a genius that he is, puts up a private, apartment structure. And, people aren't going to go downtown unless there's something to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to, the minor league team is great. Don't get me wrong, meaning the baseball team and the Wolfpack are great. But you had Major League Sport there. You had National Hockey League there. You had the greatest players in the world coming in and out of Hartford. And you had big-time events because of that were attracted to the Civic Center. And that's what's really too bad, that they lost that. And can you get it back? I don't know. It's going to take what you were saying there, Stan, and what I've been saying. It's going to take full cooperation from the governor, the mayor, and whatever the business community is today.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot said about the bishops. I think their exit has ultimately been to Hartford's demise, and I guess there were minds that thought that it's sort of like the kids that want to run the house, but they've never ever run a house before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You lock the parents outside, and next thing you know, you have chaos. And the foundation that was laid by the bishops and the business acumen that they had, I think, led to those things. And I love Hartford with every fiber of my being, but with each year that passes, at some point you have to say, I don't know if this is going to turn around. It's very sad, but I mean, it's very difficult. Businesses come here, they have vision, they have ideas, and they leave literally with their hands in the air. Like, was I dreaming?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can't be that bad, but I just experienced it, and I've heard that from several people. It's just very sad.
Well, I tend to agree with you. I mean, we genuinely loved our years in Hartford. People are great. It's a great city. The suburbs are great. Good schools, but young people aren't going to go there and be attracted to go work for the companies here unless there's things to do. That's the way it is today in this world. And it isn't just going to happen. And what I have noticed in the Hartford, and then when we were back there 10, 12 years ago, instead of having a can-do attitude, there was a can't-do attitude.
Mm-hmm.
How can we find a way not to make it work?
Mm-hmm.
When we moved the team there, I really knew nothing about Hartford. I knew I had to find a place for my team. And when I started going there and into the office before the team even moved, because we announced it in February, but it didn't move till the following fall. Didn't start playing till the following fall. People said, well, this place closes up at 5:00, and people have sort of a complex about living between Boston and New York. And we all said, we got to change that. And we did. But when I say we, it was people there, and as you call them, the bishops. The Chamber of Commerce was led by a guy named Arthur Lumsden, who was magnificent. You had good governors there. I mean, Grasso was there, and it was a really great and exciting place. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't happen by being an obstructionist. That happens by people saying, okay, we got to have to invest heavily into having a catalyst to get people back here, and it'll work because it's a good area. It's a great area.
Yeah, well, again, Howard, I mean, there's still a process that goes step by step. I mean, you sold the Hartford Whalers, I believe, in 1988. Was that clearly a business decision why you decided to sell the Whalers?
I didn't decide to sell them. Remember, I was the managing general partner, and I was kidding who. I had complete authority to run the team, but I was more working at the direction of my partners who were the corporate community. Aetna, Cigna, Travelers, Hartford National Bank, CBT, Hubeline. I mean, they were a great group. Hartford Current owned a small piece of it. Mm-hmm. And they felt at the end of the 80s that now is the time we were profitable. We were making a profit, as said earlier, Jonathan. Were you making cash? Well, mid 80s to certainly when I left in 88, we were making some nice cash, not big cash. So the corporate community said, well, we've done our bit. Things were changing with the economy. So now's the time to sell it. The only thing I advised them, they didn't listen to me. They said, sell it, fine, but make sure you control the right of movement. In other words, if you sell it to an individual or individuals, make sure you have enough control over the franchise, which is fundamentally ability to move. Or you could be in trouble because individuals don't have the corporate conscience that those bishops had, as you pointed out there, Stan. So they sold it to two individuals, and they couldn't make it work. They sold it to another individual who really couldn't make it work or never really wanted to be there in the first place. And the next thing you know, within 10 years, it's gone.
And do you think that was a real big setback? I mean, just knowing what you knew about Hartford, to lose, I guess anytime you lose a professional sports team, it's a big setback. But do you kind of see that as the starting point, making it more difficult to attract other businesses into downtown Hartford, maybe starting with the Whalers leaving Hartford?
I think it was a knife in the heart. Single most important reason why the city, in terms of activity and excitement, has gone in the wrong direction by letting the Whalers leave. These franchises in Major League Sports are not growing on trees.
Okay,
right.
And so you had a huge asset in the palm of your hand, and they couldn't get together to keep it, and that's too bad because they had an individual that was lukewarm and that's at best in keeping it there. He was from Detroit. Perfectly decent guy, but Hartford wasn't fancy enough for him. he didn't have the same motivation that we all did, because we loved the community and loved the city. This guy didn't have that same motivation. He'd never been in Hartford until he bought the team.
Mm-hmm. But the only thing I would say, Howard, I mean, and maybe it's a different scenario. There's been cases that you could look at. Well, used to have the Baltimore Colts professional football team. They left Baltimore to go to Indianapolis, and then they was able to establish a new team called the Baltimore Ravens. So it would be unfair to say that it has never happened, that you lose a professional sports team, that you can't bring back another professional sports teams. Is it maybe that Hartford was just a unique scenario? Maybe you might have some, comments about this too, that Hartford was just a unique situation, that it can't recover from losing a professional hockey team like the Whalers, different than Baltimore losing. Not only did Baltimore lose the Ravens, I believe the Baltimore Bullets, the professional basketball team, used to play in Baltimore too, which they went to be the Washington Bullets. That's only 40 miles different. So maybe that Hartford just a different type of city, a different type of area, that we can't withstand losing something on this magnitude that maybe another city can. I mean, do you have any type of commentaries about that also, Howard?
Sure I do. Well, first of all, what you said is unfair to say. I never said you couldn't get it back. You didn't hear me say that. I said that it is really, really hard to get it back.
Okay.
And I didn't say it didn't happen other places, because it did. Winnipeg lost their team to Phoenix, and then the Atlanta team had to move, so the Atlanta team moved back to Winnipeg. Colorado lost a team, Denver did, and Quebec moved to Denver. And I'm very familiar with the story of Baltimore losing the Colts. But what got the Colts back? Somebody didn't just wake up in the morning and say, well, I'm going to get an NFL franchise. They had to organize, they had to plan, and they had to know they're building a new stadium for Baltimore. They had to get the proper ownership. It was a Herculean task that took the exact same kind of organizational leadership that I talked about when we moved the team to Hartford. That's how Baltimore got the team back. If Hartford can start acting that way, and then they might have a chance, because, and when I was there in 2010 or 11, when we were trying to help the American League team, we made it crystal clear. There's only two ways you're going to get a franchise again: expansion, or will be a solution to the problem, a problem that Gary Bettman may have in the NHL. Expansion or solution to a problem. And I was largely ignored, and what happened? Atlanta went to Winnipeg. Well, they could have gone to Hartford if Hartford had their stuff together. You see what I mean? So, people aren't, and when we did the merger in 1979, believe me, the Board of Governors in the NHL weren't sitting around that boardroom and saying, now let's see, we're going to expand and let's put Hartford right on the list of places to go. Meanwhile, you got Houston at the time, Phoenix. We were the smallest market in the league. We're the only American city to get into the National Hockey League as a result of that merger. Why? Because everyone involved with the franchise, city, state, corporate, showed amazing leadership and showed them that our market, Hartford, is as viable as any market in the league. And we were.
Yeah.
Follow up.
Yeah. See, but he's, I mean, if Hartford right now, as Howard says, has a can't-do attitude. It's like baked into the cement, and when people walk past, the vapors from the cement rise up and take their brains over. And it's like, well, that'll never work. And so when you hear people say, well, we could do this and this can happen, it's so in an abstract. It's like, it's like a meteor could fall on us too.
Right.
But what it takes is leadership. And it's, as I talk about all the time, it's void. You need corporate leadership, you need elected leadership, you need business leadership, government leadership. It's just absent. It's as though everybody's kind of like riding the momentum of what used to be, hoping that someone chooses us because we're in need. And that's not how people make decisions. And so, when someone makes a decision, they want to move a company somewhere. I'm so glad he said this, because you and I have this discussion all the time. When you make a decision that you want to move a company somewhere, there's a lot at stake. And there are a lot of people who you have to convince. And companies and boards and people who want to invest are very excited when they see everybody wanting to do this. And they're lifting their end of the deal, or of the log that you're dragging through these, heavy woods. They're making the path for you. That is what moves things forward. It doesn't move forward when half the people are saying it can't be done and other folk are trying to undermine what goes on. And just like success and cooperation becomes your reputation, the opposite becomes your reputation just as well.
Right.
So people here in corporate circles, I don't know if you want to go to Hartford.
Yeah.
So-and-so was in Hartford and they chased him out. That's real.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I don't know what it'd take for Hartford to understand that. But
well, Howard and Stan, maybe you've heard talk, and I've had a guest on a couple times. Mark Corba feels that Hartford would be better served to regionalize our city and our government. Let's go to a county form of government. And he used, Mark Corba, some examples like Indianapolis, how they have a regionalized approach. Howard, do you think that would make a difference, or that would have some influence if maybe the city was regionalized beyond just having 160 different cities or towns, or that's not even much of a factor in your opinion?
When I don't know something, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
And I don't have any expertise in that. I just see a city and a state that's a fantastic place to live with great schools, and it's just a crime that city, the capital city, I was in there, I think, last March or February for literally a day and a night and a day, and it was sad for me to see nobody on the streets. And as Stan said, somebody has to say, like they did in the 70s, look, we're going to form, what they did then was form a downtown council. But a downtown council of people that are owning or operating their companies. And then you have to have the governor buy in and the mayor buy in for who's ever the mayor now. They all have to buy in and say, we are going to meet once a week and we're going to develop plans, and not just talk to talk, but we're going to really develop plans to get this city jumping again. And I think Civic Center is a huge asset. It's got to be completely overhauled in order for it to work for today. But so you do it, and you get a good economic return if you do. That's my feeling, Jonathan.
But again, like I say, we're talking about sports and we're talking about business. And I guess when you are professional sports teams, it automatically becomes a business. And you had mentioned earlier, Howard, that sometime in the beginning, you're not even generating much of a profit, that you could start off a business, because people may have this misconception that automatically if you become a professional sports team, or you establish a professional sports team, it's going to automatically translate into revenue at a high profit margin. But as you had indicated in the beginning stages, that was not really the case with the Whalers.
Well, that isn't your problem. That's a problem for the owners of the team. But you're caring about the kind of things that Stan was talking about, revitalizing the area. What you care about is people filling the building,
right?
And filling the building and spending money at restaurants and stores downtown, and creating an environment where Hartford is an exciting place to go to again. And hopefully the people that own the team will bear the fruits of what that brings. And And look at Baltimore used that as an example. It's a great success. Now, football's a much easier deal. You play 8 home games a year and play them on a weekend mostly. But still in all, there are 32 NHL markets, really almost all of them doing very, very well.
Mm-hmm. Well, Howard, Stan, Howard, obviously you know this as a former business owner of a professional hockey team. And Stan, maybe whether you know it or don't know it, it seems like it would be a simple thing to get a professional sports team into your city. But like you said, there has to be a lot of work, a lot of commitment, and even a risk factor. But the profits and the benefits can be tremendous if you have that type of professional team in your city. We was talking, Howard, a little bit earlier about the 24-year anniversary of the proposal that the New England Patriots was planning or to come to Hartford and, build a new stadium and bring their headquarters and bring their professional team to downtown Hartford. And there was one loophole that if the stadium didn't get built on a certain time, Robert Kraft was able to void the whole deal. So it would seem like the people on the outside, it would be real simple to get something done. But for whatever reason, and like I say, I don't know 100% exactly about the steam boiler plant not being removed or whatever the whole process is. But just in your opinion, if you know anything about that type of past opportunity, was that also a tremendous setback, you think, for Hartford not to get the New England Patriots to build a stadium and play professional football here?
I don't think it was a huge setback because you never had them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it looked like you could have them, because we were out here reading about it, when it looked like you could have them and it looked like the stars were aligned, whatever happened to stop it from happening is a crime.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know enough about it to tell you why the team didn't go there. People will say Kraft was using Hartford as a stalking horse, et cetera, and that could be, but I don't think so. But he looked, when he made that decision and made that announcement, and everybody up in the Boston area woke up and said, we've really lost him. And they found an opening that somehow Hartford gave him. I don't know how. Something you mentioned, steam boiler, and so land. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you this, Patriots playing Foxborough. Foxborough is in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in the middle of nowhere. And yet people go there, 70,000, whatever the number is, every Sunday. And then they build a big, huge entertainment destination center around the stadium. They have concerts there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that little area, and somehow and it isn't the people of the government in Foxborough, it's clearly the government in Boston. But whatever they did, they found a way to keep it. And that's what it took. Look what they have now.
Well, Stan and Howard, you make one good point, Howard, obviously, that we never had the professional team here. So sometimes you could look at something and say, well, you didn't lose something that you never had. But the thing that you just mentioned, and I think I mentioned this to you, Stan, the whole shopping district and everything that they built around Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, if that was part of how Bob Kraft plans also to bring something like that to Hartford, sometimes you can't always go back and make the city the exact way it was in the 70s and the 80s, but sometimes you could duplicate something different and still have the same benefits of people coming into your city, shopping, entertaining as a destination. And I think, in my opinion, that would have been a great ideal replacement of what maybe you used to have in downtown Hartford, comparable to what you could have. But as Howard said, we never had it, so we didn't lose something that we really had, like the Whalers. where we actually had the Whalers playing and we had the Civic Center really active in all types of events.
Well, I think that's, in the land of would, should, and could, all things are possible.
Yes.
But in the real world,
Right.
you have a baseball stadium. You have the Arco Stadium.
Right.
There are still people in this town that don't want it to succeed.
Okay.
And so rather than to have a can-do attitude, rather than embrace the fact that it's here, that it's been fairly successful, they've sold out, seasons and all this other stuff. So the stadium is, by all accounts, a great stadium. And how can we build on that should be the attitude. So if you put a stadium in the middle of nowhere and make it work, then one would think if you put one here, it will work if you want it to work.
Right.
See, and that's the difference. All of the things that you're saying about should and could and what the possibilities are, that's a given. The mechanisms to make it happen, that's what's missing. And that's the people factor. We don't have the people with the, I don't mean this in an insulting way, but we don't have people that have the intellectual capacity to see beyond the end of the room. And they're so siloed that if there isn't a direct benefit in the room right now, then they don't want it. Right. And you'll never get anything if you think that way, and you won't get anything if you're not willing to work together. It doesn't mean you have to agree on everything, but we're going to agree that there's going to be a good outcome. So let's work together for the good of the whole. And without that, people go to the moon.
Yeah.
Ships sail under the water. People climb mountains.
Yeah.
Because they want to, and they make it happen. Anything can be done if you want it to happen. And but hey,
there's no disagreement with that aspect, Stan. If you want something and you're willing to make it happen, I mean, sometimes the exact thing that you're planning to do may not always happen the exact way, but something usually will come out of it when you're really putting the effort and you're putting the time and the resources into that.
That's exactly right.
Well, Howard, you also at some point got involved in the film entertainment business. How did that all come about?
Well, when it really started kind of by accident. I had a friend out here that was in the film business, more in a marketing position, and he said if he ever had a script, everybody out here, this is in the 80s, if he found a script or a story, would we help him develop it? In other words, get a script done. And we said, sure, well, I mean, assuming it made sense. And so we did. We invested a little in a script story. And wouldn't you know, it got made. It was a Walt Disney movie called Flight of the Navigator. And then we were a part of a movie called Hoosiers, and then we were part of a movie, then we did Billy Galvin From the Hip, and it went from there. And when we left the Whalers, we moved to LA, and my wife was acting, and we had set up our production company, and it kind of went from there. And here we are today, and we've made just about 40 movies, and about to start another one next year, and 2 TV shows. So we're pretty active. That's how it happened. And unfortunately, the first project or two that we put our hand on got made, and we made a little money. It probably would have been better if we lost the money, but we didn't. So there it is.
So as a film producer, is there anything that you learned as managing partner and owner of professional hockey teams to a founder of a hockey team? Is there anything that you learned from your past business experiences that you've been able to duplicate or bring into an entertainment film producer?
A couple of things I always tell people. One is perseverance. And in the film business, you're going to get 500 no's before you get a yes. And that's a slight exaggeration, not much. You got to persevere. And the other thing is, just like in sports, you got to keep your head and your heart connected in some way. You operate too much from the heart, you're going to have a problem. And if you just operate from the head, you're going to have a problem. It takes great connectivity there because, you know, in the two businesses that we've been in, sports and film, they have a high profile to them. And so it's hard not to be influenced by the media or by outside forces. And you just really got to keep your balance, I guess is the best way to put it, and not overreact one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, you know, they say the film producer or the producer to go along with the director is really the two most important pieces of the production. I mean, I guess you can say the actors and actress have to play a role because you have to have them in front of the camera. To be in the film business as a film producer, do you like the era that we're in today? That, you know, making movies is something that you see as great opportunities in this era, maybe a little bit different than the past?
It's Jonathan, so it's way different now than it was 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when we first got in it, longer ago than that. You now have all the streaming services, you know, and I'm sure you know them as well. Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, they're all streaming. So movies that get you out of your house, into your car, into the theater are way more complex because unless it's a big high concept movie, you know, like a Marvel movie or, you know, like an event movie, you're probably going to stay home and watch it on your flat screen 75-inch screen. Why wouldn't you? You can stop when you have to go to the bathroom. You can have dinner and come back and see the rest of the movie. So it's different in that way. Now for us, it's a good time because we create product and sell it to the studios as such. And there are a lot of them out there. So if you are able to create good product and have good IP, you have a real good chance to succeed. But it's incredibly competitive, like anything else. And so everybody's searching for, you know, that good piece of IP, that good piece of product. Now we tend to like, which makes it a little harder, we tend to like stories that are about the triumph of the human spirit. I think more stories like that need to be told. You know, that you don't want to preach to people, but I feel like when you turn their TV off or walk out of the theater, you want to try to feel good. And we try to emphasize those kind of movies. We're not always successful, but a lot of the times we have.
Well, how did you feel being the producer to go along with your wife in the biographical movie about Ray Charles, Ray, with Jamie Foxx as the star playing Ray Charles? I mean, how did you feel having that outcome and putting that whole movie together?
Well, that was one of those examples of having a creative and financial success. A lot of times you can get a movie that's just a creative success. And then sometimes you can get a movie that's a financial success, but, you know, there was no great real message in it. Ray was a perfect storm, as I used that terminology before, of a fantastic story, brilliant music, a fascinating guy, Ray was, and getting a real good script, which attracted Taylor Hackford, who directed. Then we got Jamie, who was right then just emerging as a key star in the community here. And it all came together nicely, but it was not easy. We had a partner that financed the movie, and even then the studios resisted it, except for Universal, and I give them all the credit in the world because the movie was made for $40 million and it's grossed about $320 million. So that ain't bad, is it?
No, that's a very good profit when you can make something for 40 and generate $300 million.
That's good business.
That's good business.
Yeah, and I wish I could tell you that went into our pocket, went into the studios and in the investors' pocket. By gosh, they deserved it.
Yeah.
We love that movie.
Well, Howard, didn't you also, to go along with your wife, produced or had some involvement with the Gordie Howe movie about the former professional hockey player Gordie Howe?
Yeah, we did. I mean, Gordie is like, and Mark and Marty and Colleen and the family are like family to us. But you put that aside, what Gordie Howe did, I don't know that it'll ever be done again, and I doubt it'll be done in a contact sport like hockey with the way the game is played today.
Mm-hmm.
But we just love the notion of a father playing with his two sons, and not just any father. At the time, Gordie was, he's the Babe Ruth of hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And the boys, Mark and Marty still lives there in Glastonbury. Mark was a young, I guess you could call it phenom, and people always underestimate Marty, but Marty was one good, solid NHL player. So the fact that three of them played together right up until Gordie was 51, the last game he ever played was right there at the Hartford Civic Center in just about, I think it was April of 1980 against the Montreal Canadiens.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's a great feel-good story, and we always wanted to make the movie. It was not easy, but we pulled it together and got it done.
Mm-hmm. And Stan, you remember Gordie Howe, the professional hockey player for the Whalers? I don't know if you remember.
Oh yeah,
remember him like a legend, like he mentioned.
Legend. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm from Philly, and so anything within 60 miles of Philadelphia is in Philly, with the exception of Camden.
Yeah. Don't want to be part of
But my son-in-law is from Camden.
Uh-huh.
We don't talk about that out loud, though. But
Yeah.
poor Camden. I'm from Bucks County, which is outside, but that was still considered Philly. So I remember when the Flyers won.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
the Stanley Cup 2 years in a row, and I tell you, they closed the school for the parade. I mean, no one was coming to school. We played street hockey.
Yeah.
I mean, hockey was everything. Kids were playing street hockey. They weren't playing basketball. They were playing street hockey, and the Broad Street Bullies. Oh yeah, yeah. So I was a big hockey fan because
right.
You grew up around Philadelphia at that time.
Uh-huh.
Stan, I got to tell you something about Camden.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter was born right in Camden. There in Camden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when you mentioned Camden in the beginning. In fact, they named their dog's name is Camden. They call her Cammy.
Oh.
And so they have this dog. He's a musician. He travels all over the place and plays. But he's from Camden. He loves Camden. And we always joke, from if you're from Philly, Camden's like the armpit. It's either Camden or Newark. Yeah, but Camden's a nice city. Cherry Hill, yeah, very familiar. Yep, yep.
Well, Howard, one thing you mentioned though, and I think me and Stan, we've talked about this, or I've asked you many times, that the era that we're in now is very competitive, but you have more avenues to be able to get into certain entertainment, in the entertainment industry, with the YouTube, with streaming, Amazon, Netflix. It just seemed like to me, trying to start off in this business 50 years ago, just trying to get into the movie industry as a producer. And I think you've done part of it, Howard, already. What many people would have had to do was basically move out to California in the Hollywood, Los Angeles era. But today, not to say that that's still not a good move and somewhat of the norm, but you can do movies and be a producer, be in the entertainment industry in different parts of the country. Comparable to 50 years ago, it was just about impossible, to do something like what you can do now. They say timing, Howard, is always critical. Do you feel the timing that you made to become a film producer was the right time in your opinion?
It's a very fair question. I can't give you a good answer to that because it was the timing that I had when the Whalers sold in '88. Karen was starting the acting, and we had started a little production company. So we said, okay, this is where the good Lord has taken us, so to speak. So that's where we went.
Okay.
I will tell you though, and you are right, filming now because of tax credits. I mean, Connecticut had them. I think they still have them. I don't know. But, it's done all around. We film all over the world with our films. But the hub of the wheel is in Los Angeles. And if you're going to be an actor or a writer or frankly, a producer or a director in that end of the business, you're way better served being in LA. That's where it happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't make it work from somewhere else. Just that much harder. I tell young people that all the time.
But the competition, would you say, in Los Angeles is just so greater because you have so many people going there already established? Does the competition factor, I guess you could look at it as two ways, Howard. It could be a challenge or it could be a problem. I mean, what's the best way to look at competition when you're in a competitive market, in your opinion?
Well, I don't know that it's ever a problem as such, but it's the competition's a challenge, and that probably does make it a problem. But pretty much anything we do in life today, there's competition, and it's a challenge. Whether you're a doctor or what you guys do, you got to perform, and you got to deliver the goods. You got to, in your cases, I assume, deliver ratings, and that's just the way it is in today's world. It's very competitive out there. And then if you choose the professions that certainly we're in, film and sports, I think people tend to always fantasize, geez, I'd love to be in a movie, or I'd love to make a movie, or I'd love to own or work on a sports team, because you read about it and it takes, you get a lot of attention, but it's hard. It's like anything else. It's really, really hard. And when I say that, I'm not, being a doctor is hard. Being a lawyer is hard. You got to pay the price and make the commitment and stick to it. That's what you got to do.
Well, it's kind of a good positive way and a good informative way to kind of end this segment. I mean, obviously, I think in life it's real simplistic. Anything worthwhile is going to be hard, because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
That's exactly right.
It wouldn't be no problem if it was just so simple to become an owner, a producer, make a lot of money. Everybody would be having that magic formula doing something. So it is a hard process. But I think the belief is you don't want to believe, we was talking about this earlier, that it can't be done. It can be done. Sometimes just making up your mind and putting that effort that it can be done might be the hardest part of the whole puzzle when you're trying to get a opportunity or something done. Just getting that first step, as they always say. Sometimes it's the hardest step or hardest decision. But as we close up this segment, Howard, is there any last thing that you would like to leave people, or anything that you're working on that you kind of would like to let people know?
Well, I mean, actually, we're developing a episodic television series on the birth of the Whalers and the birth of the WHA, and we will get that done. I think that's a fun one for you to know about. And then there's another project that we might just we can't identify it yet, but that we might actually film in Hartford next year. So we have a lot in development. One show we're going to be doing in Spain. Another show we'll be doing probably in LA. So we have a lot in development. The two that I just one I specified, and the other I alluded to, would have a bearing on Hartford.
That's something to keep an eye on, obviously, that, a possibility of a movie being made here in the capital city, and, next year is right around the corner. I mean, it could be any time next year, obviously. Right. Well, Howard, there was a lot of good information that you shared. We tried to cover the areas that I was looking to cover: sports, business, and entertainment. And I felt you did an excellent job, upfront, being honest as well. Some of the statements I made might have not always come across the right way, but I'm glad that you was able to clarify anything that I misstated.
Yeah, you did great.
Okay, I appreciate that.
You did great, and I will tell you this: you are one persistent man. Because
thank you.
He is.
And I wasn't resisting. I loved being on with you guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Right.
It's early out here.
It's early. You're in California. Yeah. Like I said,
it's nice to be with you guys, and it's been a great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to join us, and it was a pleasure. Godspeed to you and all of your future endeavors, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care, Howard. Okay.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Great interview.
Yeah. I think the thing he said about being persistent and not giving up.
Oh, you are one persistent person, Jonathan. That's now you are a producer.
But particular on just Zoom guests with Howard. This thing goes maybe 2 or 3 years. People may not assume that it was just something I tried one time.
Like was said, it isn't easy. Guests come on and people might think, it takes a lot. You got to call, you got to arrange schedules. People are very busy. They're available, they're not available. They might be available, but then they get called out of the country. They're not trying to avoid you, but so you still got to make it all work. But excellent guests, and
right. Well, again, I figure, like I say many different times, Stan, I always try to book a guest that I think you would have an interest in to go along with hopefully what the audience would like to see. So, you have to take that into consideration. And I'm glad, you was able to end a dialogue and bring your point of views towards our discussion as well. So, a little bit different, having the guests on after we talked. Usually it's the other way around.
So, but we made special arrangements because he is way out on the West Coast, and it is early. He got up real early to join us, so you make it happen.
That's the key. I actually kind of learned that from you. You believe in making something happen.
Make it happen.
We can talk about why things can, what the problem is, but at some point, if you want something, you got to figure out how to make it happen.
Yep.
And that's what I like about you. You are very honest with people, and me too. If you're something that you can do and you give your word, you're definitely going to go out and do it. If you can't do it, you're upfront in the beginning. This is not likely to happen. I don't want to participate in something, and I can respect that. And I try to interact with people like that as well. When I'm reaching out to people for different questions or information, just let me know where where things stand. That's the best I can really say about that. So,
all right. Well, my friends, our time together has come to an end as it does each and every day. But stick and stay. We're always here 8 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock in the morning, 10 in the morning, 10 at night. It's Life Source Victory Television. So with that, special thanks to our guests. You all have a fabulous rest of your day. Do something great for yourself and someone you love. All right. Bye.
My name is J. Stan McCauley, and I do business as Light Source Productions. I provide professional services in the area of strategic video communications. First, what we do is we help you craft your message using what I call the rule of the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. We do event documentation, content acquisition, full-scale productions, editing, and of course distribution through our social media television network. And with social media, video is more important now than it has ever been. Whether you're talking big business, small business, nonprofit, church, or just an individual. Let's say you plan you're planning an event, a wedding, whatever the case may be, but let's say a big event, but no video. And you spent all this time, all these hours to put this event on, and maybe 100, 200 people attend the event. But more important than that is that thousands could attend by watching it on social media. But of course, you don't think about this until after the event is over. You can't afford not to capture it for social media. And despite what people think, I am affordable. Give me a call. Let's plan your next video project and share it with the world on my social media television network. I promise you that you will have the attention of one person, me.